everybody. So I'll just make a start with a recording. Okay, we are live. So hello everybody and welcome to this meeting of the Licensing Subcommittee on the 5th of June 2025. My name is Gareth Davis. I'm the Democratic Services Officer. So I'll be supporting this meeting today. Before I start the meeting, if I can just let everybody know that the meeting is being live streamed and recorded for future viewing. We do have a legal officer observing, so if there are any objections with that, please could people let me know as soon as possible. So moving straight to the agenda, and the first item is appointment of chair. Please can I have nominations?
Could I nominate Councillor Pamela Drake as chair, please?
And I'll second that.
Okay.
Thank you both.
Okay, I'll take the nominations. So Councillor Drake, you are elected chair for this licensing sub. Thank you.
Right. Do you want to take us through and outline the procedures for the hearing today to those present?
I'll put you on again. I'll go through that, Chair, very briefly. So first, we'll have the licensed officer to present the report, and then it'll be up to the applicant or their representative to make representations on their case. After that, all parties can ask the applicant or the representative any questions. Then stage 3 will be the representation from responsible authorities, but I don't believe we have any for this hearing. Stage 4 is the interested parties, and that will be Mr. and Mrs. Hoysh. Stage 5 will be the summing up for the interested parties. Stage 6 is the closing statement by the applicant or their representative. And stage 7 will be the opportunity for points of clarification. And then after that, Chair, we'll go into private deliberation where the licensing committee will make its decision in private. Hope that's clear, Chair.
Right. Thank you very much, Gareth, for highlighting that. I'll go to item number 3, is to receive any declarations of interest and the nature of such interest under the Council Codes of Conduct. Do we have any declarations to be made? No, can't see anything. Right, I'll move on to item number 4, which is a report of the Licensing Authority under the Licensing Act 2003, which is a grant of a premises licence to the Bakehouse Corner House, Commercial Street, Llantwit Major. I will hand over to our licensed officers to outline this, this application.
Thank you, Chair. Kirsty Evans, Licensing Team Manager. Yeah, so as mentioned, this is an application to determine a new premises licence. So we have received an application for the grant of a premises licence for the Bakehouse, Corner House, Commercial Street, Llantwit Major. And you'll find the application and accompanying plan in Appendix A of your report. So the applicant has described the premises as a cafe serving brunches to eat in or take away, be serving hot and cold drinks with a small selection of wines, spirits and bottled beers to be consumed on the premises with food. They plan to have a small selection of bottled wine beers in the bottle shop that can be bought and taken away should customers want to. They plan to open mainly in the daytime and occasional evenings with pop-up street food offerings, cocktails and occasional acoustic music. The building is a detached property in the heart of Llantwit Major, which resides on a corner position. Outside the entrance to the property is a one-way street into Llantwit Major, and the back of the property opens onto a small lane, which is a no-through road. So the cafe seats approximately 30 to 35 people and is situated on the ground floor of the building, entrance into the main room, which contains the bar/counter area with some seating. So off the main room then is another room which holds additional seating and leads to the toilet and kitchen area. It also contains stairs to the small upstairs, which is closed off to the public and only for staff use. The upstairs area also has storage and toilet facility. So the cafe has a small courtyard outside the back door for storage bins, and it's not for public use. They intend to apply for council seating outside the property, which is not a matter for this committee. This will be a small number of tables and chairs. The above flat is owned by the landlord of the cafe and is rented. Access to this flat is via its own door at the back of the cafe and on the dead end road. The area surrounding the cafe is a mixture of commercial and residential properties. To the right of the property is another restaurant, and directly next door to the cafe is a kitchen showroom. So moving to the application itself has requested the licensable activities detailed in 1.3 of your report. So that's the sale of alcohol for consumption on and off the premises, Monday to Sunday, from 10 a.m. to 10:30. Indoor sporting events from Thursday to Sunday from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. Live music indoors Thursday to Sunday from 12 midday to 10:30. Recorded music then indoors Monday to Sunday 8:30 to 11 o'clock. So although the applicant has applied for the entertainment stated, so indoor sport events, live music, recorded music, these are all actually deregulated. So no license is required for these activities. And I think since the report's been published, the applicant has confirmed that they're not looking to trade outside the deregulation, so that they're withdrawing the need for that. So essentially, the committee are only looking at today the sale of alcohol at the premises, so from 10 p.m. to 10:30 p.m. So the applicant has proposed a number of they've proposed additional conditions for the promotion of the objectives, and these can be found in section M of the application, which is in Appendix A. So there was a statutory consultation period that took place, and in the consultation, we received 3 representations from local residents, and they're detailed in Appendix B of your report. A representation was also submitted by South Wales Police, who are responsible authority. However, their request for a hearing was withdrawn, and instead that they have agreed licensing conditions with the applicant, and it's proposed that if members are minded to grant the application, that these conditions are imposed on the license. They are detailed in Appendix C of your report. We did also receive a representation of support, which was from another local resident, and that is detailed in Appendix B of the report. Since the publication of the report, the applicant has submitted additional information in the form of a written statement, some photos of the premises, menus, and letters to residents. So all of these have been circulated to the committee, and they've also been published as part of the agenda. We have also received additional information from representation number 3, which they submitted, showed photographs of some sick along the street, along with empty glasses, and these have also been circulated to both members and the applicant and have been published. So as we have received relevant representations, the subcommittee is asked to determine the application. Having regard to the council's statement of licensing policy and the guidance issued by the Home Office, the application itself and any representations here today and contained in the report. So if minded to grant the application, the subcommittee is requested to confirm whether any additional conditions are to be imposed or only this which are consistent with the operating schedule. Thank you, Chair.
All right. Does any member wish to raise any further clarifications from Kirsty, please? No? That's fine then. Thank you very much, Kirsty.
Thank you.
I'll now move on to item number 5, which is to invite the applicant or the representative to present their case. I don't know who's going to do that this morning. Oh,
It's going to be me, Chair.
right. Thank you.
Pleasure. Good morning. My name's Matthew Phipps. I'm from TLT Solicitors. I'm joined on this call by Laura Snedden, who is the applicant, but I'm going to address you hopefully relatively briefly this morning and just introduce our application. The materials we've provided are contained within your additional info pack 1 and 2. Additional info pack 2 is a written submission introducing our materials and explaining who we are and what our proposals are in line with your policy, which asks for a written version of the presentation. I'm not going to read that to you, but if I may, I will canter you through it slightly. And additional info 1 are some photographs that we have produced of the premises and a couple of menus and drinks lists, just to give you an indication of who and what we're about. Perhaps the easiest place to start, however, would be the plan, which is on page 45 of your agenda. Forgive me for asking a question. I don't know how to share my screen. I don't even know if I'm meant to be sharing my screen, but I'll just leave you, committee, please, just to get the plan at page 45 within the agenda, which I think is a decent starting point. If you're happy, then I'll proceed. So this is a coffee shop and cafe premises. It's a modest-sized premises, and the plan rather makes the point elegantly for me. It has a capacity of 36 seats shown on the plan that is disclosed, and you'll see, as Kirsty has mentioned, there's no outside area as any part of this application. There is no fundamental change to what's being proposed here. We're wanting to enhance what we have, to diversify and develop the offer. And it's been set out very fairly by Kirsty and is within the application and the description. We would like to be able to accompany our offer with a modest range of wines and beers. That's all set out in additional info pack 1. We are a small premises, and we want to offer an alternate to the public houses in Llantwit. And as you may be aware, the Kutch restaurant in Llantwit recently closed. Obviously still licensed, entirely accept that, but it's recently closed. We'd also like to have an off-license facility. The off-license facility will be to allow people to take our range of local beers and some wines away with them. In reality, it will be a shelf or shelves. It is not turning into an off-license shop, and you'll see the sort of range that we've proposed. This application is only concerned with sale of alcohol. When Laura submitted the application, she wanted to be entirely transparent. They do want to have some music evenings, perhaps on a couple of weekends a month. They may show televised sport. They might put the rugby on a screen, and believe that that required additional permissions, which, as Kirsty's explained, government has decided that that is not necessary. So we're happy to withdraw all the regulated entertainment elements of the application today. It's perhaps suggested in the representations that we're a pub or something like a pub. I think there's reference to a micro pub in the representations. Respectfully, I'd say that was a stretch, but you'll come to your own conclusion as we go through this. The police helpfully engaged in the application process, and their representation is within your papers. That is set out at page 51 of your agenda pack, and that's Appendix C. And what they say in simple terms is, please can you attach the following conditions to the license? And you will see within the agenda pack at the foot of the police representation that there's agreement from Laura to all of those conditions, which will be in addition to those that were proposed in the application, save where they amend or improve the original proposed wording. Actually, through it, CCTV, incident book, challenge 25, training, bottle and glass removal, off sales in sealed containers, and laid out, the premises to be laid out to tables and chairs. None of the other responsible authorities object at all. And your legal officer will be familiar, and it's in these submissions fully quoted, with paragraph 9.12 of the national guidance, which says that usually the police will be your primary source of information and reliance for crime and disorder issues and concerns, which obviously the representations raise. And we say that the lack of any responsible authority involvement today is a matter of some significant weight for you when you come to retire. The objections that you have received, and I know that you will hear from one of the objectors later, express lots of concern about the local nearby pubs. But I'm bound to say this is not an application for a review of those public houses. This is an application for a new license on its individual merits. And the decor, design, size, drinks range, hours, and the fact that alcohol is just not going to be a primary focus of this premises, I hope will lead you to the fair conclusion that this couldn't fairly be described as a pub on any view. You'll also be very familiar with your policy, which I have quoted in the submissions. There are two parts of your policy that I do want to bring your attention to this morning. The first is that your policy specifically says that a wide choice of high quality and well-managed entertainment and cultural venues operating within a safe, orderly and attractive environment is an ambition of the authority. And also page 5, that the council wishes to support reasonably operated businesses and the local economy. And we say unashamedly that's a category into which we directly fall. There's some reference to the premises and other premises. I mean, I would make the obvious point that our address is Commercial Street, which rather suggests that having a business here is not inappropriate. In terms of our additional information, the first of those documents you'll see on page 1 of additional information 1 is a letter to residents that that we circulated to the 3 representors. We've not had anything back, but we did try to engage once the representations were received. We've got some photos of the outside of the venue, page 2, photos of the inside of the venue, page 3. We put a notice in the window, which is page 7, which introduces the application and our proposals. And that little flyer was circulated to 30 or so local residential properties in the immediate vicinity. It does, I hope, disclose that we're being as open and transparent as you would expect of a reasonable and professional applicant. And there's a menu and drinks list at page 8. In terms of the licensing report, just one brief point to make. Page 36 is the representation in support of the application, which I'll ask you just to consider when you come to retire. In terms of the representations themselves, there is lots of reference to concerns that the residents who've served representations have about this application. We're very respectful of that, but concerns, if they were the basis on which an application would be refused, then candidly no license applications would ever be granted, because all licensed premises cause some concern. That's why we have a licensing act, and that's why we have licensing committees to determine applications where representations are received. One of the representations suggests that there's a cumulative problem in Chatwick Major. That's not something we accept, and we do rely upon your policy, page 19, which concludes that there is no cumulative effect on any town actually in the Vale. The second representation explains that concerns about the other have been raised with the town council. I don't for a moment deny that, but I'm not sure what that's got to do with us. But I do note the town council's not served a representation, and nor have the police, who are also mentioned within the representation. There's anxiety articulated about the risk of a fatal accident if tables and chairs were placed outside the premises. I'm going to make 2 points about that. One is that's not this application. You've got the plan, and Kirsty's already touched base with you on that. But it may just be instructive to consider that this application is generating anxieties about fatal accidents from residents, which respectfully I wouldn't say was proportionate to what's proposed on any view. The third representation references the fact that the environmental health officer for the authority has been engaged by the resident representor in the past. They don't make a representation, which I say is instructive. They've provided some photographs, which are in front of you. One of those is a photograph of what looks like sick on the pavement. I don't know what I can really say to you about that. I don't know if it's being suggested it came from our premises and that we're giving people food poisoning, or whether it's being suggested it came from someone in the pub who's had too much to drink, or whether it's being suggested that someone walked along the street who was unwell. I don't know that I can really help you with that. And then there are two photographs, one of which shows two glasses against a wall, and one shows one glass against a wall with a straw in it. I'm really sorry, but I can't see that those photographs really lead to the conclusion that either the licensing objectives are being undermined, or that our premises would, well, or that they have anything to do with our premises, to be candid. So in all the circumstances, and sort of following really the police and the other officer leads, we'll be inviting you to grant the application for the modest hours and with all of the conditions, including the police conditions, that are proposed. Obviously happy to take any questions. Hope that didn't overextend my time.
Thank you, Mr. Phipps. Does any member wish to raise any? Oh, Councillor Hennessy, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, there's always someone. I know the area quite well, like Councillor Norman. We both remember it when it used to be a greengrocers, I think, if that's right, Jane, in it. You mentioned
back in the day, yeah.
Yeah, I'm that old. I can remember that far back. You mentioned that commercial. When it was built, yes, there was no other properties there. Right opposite where you have those tables used to be a pub. Used to be a newsagent, used to be opposite where you are now, used to be a bank. But since all that, there are now residential properties right opposite you. Have you spoken to the residents over by there, and has anyone communicated with you that they are unhappy with this?
So yes, so as I mentioned, we did the letter drop to all the immediate residents. We put more than, or about 30 letters through letter boxes. We had one person come into the cafe in order to speak, I think spoke either directly to Laura or one of her team, chatted it through, left happy, didn't serve a representation. And then the only other positive feedback of, other than, you know, some comments in passing as people were getting a coffee or a cake or what have you, is the positive representation you've seen. We followed up with the residents who've served the representations direct with the letter that's included in information pack 1, but they never came back to us. So yeah, as much as that can answer your question, you know, one query is probably the short answer.
Okay, and in your photograph, you've got one at the front of the building where the bakehouse is. Will the tables and chairs be completely removed at the end of every evening?
So yes, this isn't that application, actually. We will need to apply separately for a tables and chairs license permission if we are to put any tables and chairs outside, which we intend to do. Okay. And usually it's a standard condition for tables and chairs licenses that are granted by the Vale that we need to remove them. I think from I'll be corrected by Kirsty. I think normally it says at 11, but obviously as we close at 11, they'd be removed at the end of the service. And just on the point of 11 p.m, we'd like to be open in the evening. We would, but please don't think that we're going to be open till 11 every night of the year. There just isn't the business for it. The permission will allow us to do it, but if you look at the premises, you'll see, you know, it's just not realistic.
Okay, thank you.
I'll bring our legal officer, Richard Price, in now. He's got his hand raised.
Yes, members. The licensing of tables and chairs on the highways is a completely separate regime, and so that
Yeah.
will have to be a licensing application. It's quite a complex application and involves the consultation of various statutory consultees, like the Highways Department, the police, for example. But that is not something that you need to consider today or is relevant in relation to this application.
Yep.
So do you mind if I just jump in on a point that Richard has made, which is that it is a separate application process, but in the police conditions, the police, in conversation with us in anticipation that this is likely to be something we would like, have asked us to remove the furniture by 9 p.m. in any event. Now, that's a bit anticipatory because obviously we haven't made the application yet, but if we do succeed, then they would be removed by 9.
Right, I've noticed there's a hand up for Isabel Hewish, and I'm not exactly sure who this is and what the query is.
Chair, Isabel is one of the interested parties. She's made representations, and I think she's entitled to raise questions with Mr. Phipps as part of the hearing.
I'll go off so she can come on.
Is she able to come on?
Isabel, I think you're on mute. We can't hear you.
Yes, we can't hear you.
Is the speaker button red? You may have muted yourself, Isabel. We can't hear you. There should be an icon with the camera microphone. If that's muted, if it's red, it's been muted. Isabel, did you join via headphones before? Headphone device? If you can nod, can you nod if you can hear me? You may have to leave and come back. If you leave the meeting and rejoin, that should reset your system, and we'll come back to you when you rejoin. Okay. Okay, Chair. If that's acceptable, should we move on, and then when Isabel rejoins, we'll ask her to make her representations or ask the questions when she rejoins.
Yeah, she can come in on item number 7, so which is the interested parties here. Well, item number 6, the responsible authorities. Well, obviously the police put a request in for a hearing, which was withdrawn because all conditions have been agreed. Yeah. So we move on to item number 7 now. Any interested parties to speak and bring forward witnesses for their case. So I presume Isabel Hewish wants to come in on this. Can we hear you?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. I just wanted to go back in regards to the last gentleman. Not once did we state that those pictures were outside the cafe, the bakehouse. We were asked to provide evidence of mess through Lantwick Major after a weekend. And that's the only reason those photos were sent in, just to show what happens after a night in Lantwick. It had nothing to do, we weren't stating it was anything to do with the bakehouse.
Councillor Norma, you want to come in? Councillor Norman?
Sorry, I say those photographs were taken outside of premises, which are about 150 metres away from where the place we're talking about, and I don't think they should have been included in this because it's almost. If we didn't know the history of Lantwick and if we didn't know the layout of Lantwick, it looks very much as if you're insinuating that those were taken outside the premises in question. And
no, we never once stated that. Not once. We were asked to just prove mess that can be left behind after pubs close and that. And that's the only reason I sent them in. Otherwise, I wouldn't have sent them in. I'm doing what I was asked of. And like I said, not once did we state it was a bakehouse.
We've had a lot of problems with this premises in the past. on the town council, and we've had police informed, and it is just the one premises that's causing the problems. And I honestly don't think they should have been submitted with this application.
Well, we're just showing what could additional mess could end up happening. That's what we were asked to provide, and that's what we provided. So I do apologise if that was wrong, but we were doing what we were asked to do.
Councillor Hennessy, you've put your hand up.
Yeah, this was a question for Isabel. Who asked you to send them in, please?
Let me find the email. 2 seconds. I'll just try and find the email now. Won't be a second. Only had it yesterday as well. Actually, I was sending them to Kirsty by the looks of it. Yes, Kirsty Evans, I was sending them to.
No, that wasn't my question. My question was, who asked you to send them in?
Pretty sure it was. I'll have to read through all the emails and I'll find the email for you.
Okay, no worries.
Isabel, do you wish to make any more comments on you?
Oh, sorry, what was that?
Do you wish to make any more comments or advise our members exactly what the issue is?
Well, it's not so much. We've got nothing against the bakehouse. We've got nothing against the licenses. You know, we just want to put our point of view that we're more worried that another premises that's going to be open until whatever time that they've agreed to. It's extra people outside smoking, drinking. Could end up with more broken glass, more noise level. And it's okay to say that there's a few tables out till 9 o'clock, but there still can be a noise level. But then I know that people can only buy the alcohol to take home. But, you know, who's to say, you know what people like when they're drinking, they'll open them up and start drinking them as they're going home. We just wanted to get our point over. And had we had a meeting right at the beginning, perhaps we all wouldn't be in this situation. Yes, we've had letters. The one was a bit off with us a bit. I was a bit not happy with the first letter, but the second letter I thought, right, okay. But I still wanted to go ahead and have this meeting just so we knew exactly where we all stood. So, but again, we all thought the bakehouse was just going to be a cafe. We weren't expecting a licensee or anything like that. And again, we've got nothing against the lady that's doing it. You know, I'm more than welcome. You know, I'd like to go up and say hello to her, but I just don't want to rock the boat. However, we just don't want an added issue out the front, because even when the Cwtch was open, people would go out the front and have a cigarette and be a bit loud and that. You know, we just don't want added stress to the situation. If you get what I'm saying. And we just want to know exactly whatever it is that the lady's going to do, she is going to stick to. So if it is 9 o'clock or whatever time it is and everything's cleaned up, that's fine. You know, we won't object. We just want to know in black and white exactly what's happening.
Right. Councillor Hennessy, you've got hand up.
Yeah, Jane might be able to help me on this, but I can't remember. But to my knowledge, within where the bakehouse is, there's 1, 2, 3, 5 pubs, a restaurant around the corner from where Pickwick Papers used to be.
Mm-hmm.
And to my knowledge, all of them serve alcohol, and you're going to get the issues what are in these photographs. I'm a bit confused for some reason.
Yeah. I tell you what, another issue we've had, and we've had it even from the Cwtch, and it's not fair myself or any of my neighbours, where people, when they come out of the pubs or out of the restaurants, and I don't know how many toilets they've got and everything, they're urinating in the archway. You know, and that's not very nice, you know, people urinating. I'm not saying it's going to happen from the bakehouse, but it just means if people are outside, the toilets are full, they just go to the nearest place, which seems to be where we are. Mm-hmm. And up the lanes.
Councillor Norman, you want to come back in?
Yeah, on this point, again, this is a historic complaint we've had over, I've been on the council now nearly 10 years, and we've been having this complaint every couple of months over the 10 years. We've had the police involved, I know that the problem that Mrs. Hewish has had, we've had complaints from her to the town council, which we've looked into. We've asked the police, and the public house involved in it is one that's refused to cooperate with the local pub watch. And all the other pubs are involved with pub watch. This gentleman there refuses to cooperate and has no control over his customers whatsoever, and makes no bones about it. He's not interested. Once it's outside his premises, he's not interested. And they're the people causing the problems in the centre of Llantwit. And I don't think this smaller premises, which has got no intention of becoming another pub, would have to suffer because of that.
Thank you, Councillor.
I think Councillor Hennessy's agreeing with me on that point.
Right then. Nothing further under this item? So item number 6 is those making representations are invited to sum up. Obviously, we haven't got the police here because they've agreed to the... Oh, did you want to come in, Gareth?
I just want to check that there's no questions from Matthew Phipps, Chair, of Isabel.
Oh, right.
Just to clarify that point before we move on, please.
Yeah, he hasn't raised his hand, so I'll bring him on.
Thanks, Richard. No questions. Chair, you're right. I would have raised my hand if I'd had any, so thank you very much, but nothing
Thank
to add.
you.
Thanks.
Right. As I said, the responsible authorities, the police are not here, and any other interested parties, I will hand back to Isabel to see whether she wants to say anything further. No, she hasn't come on screen.
God, not again. Right. Am I on now? Sorry. I get stressed with this thing. Yeah, no, I don't think there's much more for myself. Like I said, we've got nothing against everything, but we just want things in black and white because, as Jane knows, it hasn't been quite the easiest of places to live, and we just don't want added stress. You know, we support any local new business, and we've got no issue. It's just a fear of more people out on that little triangle in the evenings, getting drunk and effing and jeffing and weeing up the balls. That's my main concern. But I do know she's got cameras up there, which is really good. And I think personally, I know this has nothing to do with this, we need more cameras in Llantwit anyway. But I would like it if she did have issues, it was reported to the police every time, and it wasn't just swept under the carpet.
Right.
If she minds, I don't mind if she's happy, I'll pop over and see her. That's not an issue. And if we've got any issues that we're concerned about, would she be happy for us to come over and see her if she gets her licenses going forward? If we've got any concerns, would she be happy if we come and see her face to face?
Right, thank you very much for that. Now, item number 9, I'll ask the applicant whether they wish to make any closing statements.
Thanks, Chair.
Yeah.
Thanks, Chair. Just a couple of quick comments from me. I mean, it strikes me there's 2 points really of significance here. The first is that all of your deliberations, as you know, and as your legal advisor will remind you when you retire, are to be determined each application on its individual merits. We've spent most of this morning talking about other premises unrelated to this application. And to be fair to Isabel, pretty much at the end, she said, well, I don't really object to this one. Now, you've got 2 other written representations. I'm not for a moment saying nobody objects. I recognise people object. But that then leads me on to the issue of reasonableness, which you will all know is a key watchword in licensing terms. I mean, bluntly, I will say that if we're turning this application down, then candidly, we're turning every application down for a new licence anywhere in the Vale, because this is modest, sensible, appropriate, seems to be perfectly in line with your policy as to the sort of premises that you would hope to see develop. And I would suggest perfectly proper at this location as well. In terms of Isabel's point about speaking, absolutely. That's why we've written a couple of times. We're keen to engage. There is nothing in it for us to not have a good relationship with our residents. If you look at the photographs of the premises, you will realise that local residents and those who live in Llantwit are bound to be our customers.
And so we absolutely would welcome the dialogue and the discussion with Isabel, and we can agree a time to pop in, etc. The final point is this, just in terms of the photographs, the comments about the pub and the engagement of other publicans and so forth. We're not disrespectful of the points that are made, but I'm bound to finish on the point. I just don't see what that's got to do with this morning. This morning is, will this premises undermine the licensing objectives with these conditions, these hours, and these proposals? And I'm afraid that my respectful submission, the answer can only be a resounding no. And if the answer is no, then I invite you to grant the license as applied for, and probably nothing more for me to add.
Thank you very much. Item number 10, is any final clarifications from members wish to raise on any points? No? No? Right, that's fine. Item number 11, as a subcommittee, will now retire and deliberate, and will be accompanied by our legal officer and our committee clerk. So thank you everybody for their attendance today, and we'll obviously get the information out to you as soon as possible.
Yeah, just to advise, Chair, that we need to make a decision with it. Well, the applicant will revise the decision within 5 working days. So if I could ask Matthew, Laura, and Isabel to leave, Chair, and we can retire into private session. Then, thank you.
Thank you, Gareth.
Thanks very much for your time, everybody. Sorry, it's Matthew Phipps speaking. Thanks very much for your time, and look forward to hearing from you in due course. Cheers.
Thank you.